record on this computer. Okay.
Thanks, Colleen. Okay, so I am the resource management librarian here at HSLC. My name is Robin Gleesner. I select the resources for the library and handle license agreements for those resources. And today we're going to talk about course materials at HSLC. And we probably should have titled this session something more along the lines of understanding e-textbooks, because that's really what we're going to focus on. So hopefully you're interested in that topic specifically. So we have a couple of objectives. By the end of the session, you should be able to understand what ebooks, well, of course you know what ebooks are, but e-textbooks are. Understand user models and how many users can access a title at a time. Know that there are different platforms, they're not all the same, and understand some of those restrictions. And then be able to show your students where they can find or discover the titles that we're talking about. And then finally, where you can ask for help about any of these things. So we're going to start at the very beginning and talk about what an e-textbook really is. So an e-textbook is basically an ebook that has been assigned to a course as required reading. And the key there is really that required piece. It's not supplemental or a different kind of book. It's something that's been assigned to a course. And it's important to note that HSLC does not provide access to all required textbooks or readings. I wish that we could do that, but there are a number of reasons why we can't. And usually it comes down to the cost of the book. But I wanted you to know that each title is evaluated for scope, content, format, availability, and cost. So if you request that we purchase a textbook, we will actually ask you a number of questions, including the desired format of the title, name of the course, and the number of students expected to enroll in that course. And that's really to give us an idea of how many students will need to access the book at the same time, or what we call simultaneous use. So how many of you knew that this was actually different for each ebook? I'm going to open up my screen here. So if you can raise your hand or show a little smiley face. Okay, great, some of you, excellent. All right, I'm going to try and turn on my little pointer here to show you this. So ebooks have something called user models, or sometimes you'll hear us call them seats. And I really like that idea of calling them a seat, because it gives us something to visualize. So we're going to start at the bottom of this list here, which are all of our user models or seats. 1U actually stands for one user. So that means only one person can access a title at a time. So one seat. So one person in the back row can access this book. Then the person sitting next to them, if they were to try and get into that same book, they wouldn't be able to. They'd be turned away or denied. So the same thing with 2 users. So 2 seats, 2 people could access the book, and the third person would be denied, and so on. So then a 3 user, you would have 3 people, and this poor last person wouldn't be able to get in. So that's kind of the idea with the seats. Nonlinear and concurrent are a little bit different, a little more complicated. They're actually based on users and timing. So it's a combination of those things. So an example would be something like we would have 300 uses within 365 days. So it would be any use at any time. So the nice thing about this model is that it can be simultaneous use. Multiple people, unlimited people can use it at one time, but we're limited to the number of those uses. And then finally, in my opinion, and probably everyone's opinion, the best user model is the unlimited access. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's unlimited. So this entire class could access the ebook at the same time, and many more people as well. There aren't any restrictions as far as use goes, which is really nice. That's what we want. Okay, let me turn off this pointer. Okay, so I wanted to show you some of the unlimited access platforms that we have at HISLC. The first one is Access Medicine and Access Pharmacy. This is really any of our resources you see that have access in the front of them are from McGraw-Hill, and all of these are unlimited access. So collection of medical and pharmacy ebooks. Whoops, sorry about that. One of the titles highlighted is Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine. That's included in Access Medicine. We also have LWW Health Libraries, and this includes the Board Review Series, PA Rotation Specialties, and Basic Science Collection. And that one includes a lot of our anatomy books. And so all of those are also unlimited access. And then finally, we have books at Ovid. And this includes health sciences specialty ebooks. And I would say that there's a number of nursing books in this collection. So even though we have access, unlimited access for users, there's still a number of restrictions on these platforms. So I just wanted to talk really quickly about what some of those are. So Access Medicine, LWW, and Ovid, again, those are the unlimited access platforms. And you can see in this chart that none of these platforms allow us to download an entire title. And so with that, obviously they don't require an e-reader because they're not allowing us to do that. They actually force you to read the information online. They do allow downloading of chapters and printing chapters. So that's nice. You can save them as a PDF, download them to your computer or a drive. And LWW is the only one that requires that you create an account within LWW. And it's a free account, so it's very easy to do, but they do require that in order to access that feature. Oops, there we go. Now we're on the right slide. So now we're going to talk about a couple of the other platforms. And these are the platforms that are not so cut and dry. They're a little bit different as far as what's allowed. So all of these are, well, I shouldn't say all of them. ProQuest and EBSCO are both multidisciplinary collections, and they can have any of those user models that we talked about. So any of the seats. And that's what gets a little complicated, but because it's a little challenging to see what access we really have. And then StatRef and R2 are both health sciences ebook collections. StatRef, most titles only allow one user. We have a couple that are a little bit more that we extended the use on those, but for the most part, it's just one user. And then R2, or you'll hear it called Rittenhouse as well, that one only allows one user, and it's probably the most restrictive. So we'll have another chart here that shows those restrictions on the platform. ProQuest and EBSCO are probably the most similar. Downloading the title is allowed in both of these, but it depends on the title. And so something important I think to note is that if HISLC is aware that this is an e-textbook, that it's been assigned for a course, we actually turn off that full download option. And this is just to give more students the opportunity to access the title at one time. So rather than them checking it out for 3 days, they have to read it online, and maybe it just takes however long that they're in that session. Then the idea is that they exit the book and the next person can come in. So that's really nice for those 1, 2, and 3 user models. So ProQuest does require an e-reader. It's the Adobe Digital Editions for desktop and the Blue Fire Reader for any Android or Apple device. EBSCO doesn't require any kind of e-reader, but again, it's another one that requires you to create one of those personal accounts in EBSCO, which is pretty easy to do. Both of them allow downloading the chapters, which is nice, but there is a limitation on how many pages you can print. And I'll show you a little bit more in just a second what that looks like. So for R2 and StatRef, these are, again, probably the most restrictive of the platforms. They don't allow a full download of the title, so they don't need the e-reader. R2 does not allow any downloading of the chapters. They force you to read everything online, and you can't really print a chapter either, which is kind of unusual. You can only print one page at a time. And so that's a little bit different. StatRef, though, does allow you to save a PDF and print the chapters. And of course, all of the platforms allow reading online. So that was a lot of information, and I do not expect you to remember all of that, remember all of those charts. So I'm going to show you where you can find this information. The best place is always to start in our catalog. And hopefully you can see the catalog now. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see that?
I can see the homepage, but I don't see the catalog.
That's okay, we're gonna get to it just in a second.
Okay, yes.
Okay, yes, so this is the top of the screen. We're going to scroll down to the catalog. I did that on purpose so that you would see we have to scroll down to get to our search box. So I'm going to do a search for a title that is in ProQuest, and it's already here, so we'll do that. You can notice that I type in TI colon. You don't have to do this. TI stands for title. It just gets us straight to the title and usually brings that title to the top of the list. If you don't do that, it's searching all of the words as keywords, and it should still bring them up somewhere in the top of your search, but this will get you to closer to the top. Okay, so we'll do our search. I'll continue as a guest for now. And we'll wait a little bit for this to load. And there's our view ebook. I'm actually going to click on the title of this one though, just to show you where you can find the name of that platform. And unfortunately, ProQuest is a little bit different. It's the same thing as eBook Central. So it's eBook Central or ProQuest. That's what you'll see here. The other ones will be easier. So we'll click view ebook, and I already looked at this once today, so we will refresh the page. There it is. Okay, so what I want you to take a look at is under availability here. So it tells us your institution has access to 3 copies of this book. So we know that this is a 3-user model, so that only 3 users can access this title at a time. We have to read it online. So this is one of those titles that we noted was an e-textbook. And so the full download is disabled here. And then you can see we can download PDF chapters, and right here it says how many pages that we can do that with, and that we can use any PDF software, and that it doesn't expire. So I've had a lot of questions about that. So if you download a PDF to your computer, you have that PDF of the chapter until you delete it. It's not going to magically disappear one day. So you have it until you don't want it anymore. And then it also tells us that we've got 147 pages remaining for copy. And that means printing, really. So that's where you can find information that we just talked about in basically the introductory page of the ebook. Okay, so now we're going to go and look at one for EBSCO. And I won't make you watch me type. Okay, same thing, I'm going to click on the title here. And this one you can see, this is EBSCO. So then you know exactly which platform you're going into. This one's a little bit different in that you actually have to scroll quite a bit down the page to find the information. What you're looking for are publisher permissions and this concurrent user level. So this tells us that we can print, email, save 100 pages, and we have unlimited copying and pasting, which is nice. And then our concurrent user level. So this is the one we were talking about, that concurrent user model, is limited user access. So it's telling us we have 325 uses available within the year. And so that means they can be 325 uses at any time. They can all be at the same time. They can be spread out through the year, or a mixture of those things. And now we're going to look at an R2 title. So you get the same kind of idea. Oops. Discovery does not like numbers. So this time we'll just click on the link here because you get the feel for how to do that. So again, Rittenhouse is one of those that's the most restrictive, and I find it very interesting. It being as restrictive as it is, there is very little information on this page as to the access. So it gives you the description and it gives you the table of contents, but it doesn't tell you how many people can access this at one time. So unfortunately, you just have to know that this is one user. Only one person at a time can use this title. To get to some of the other features, you can click on tools, and this will allow you to print the page or email the page, but that's about all you can do in this platform, other than just read the material online. Okay, last we have StatRef. And we'll go right into the ebook. And same thing with this one. So again, it's more restrictive, usually only the one user. It doesn't tell you anything about that on this page. It's the title page and the copyright page, and that's it. To get to those other features with downloading, you can click the printer icon, and this will allow you to save as a PDF or print. So I find it very interesting that the user models with the most access and the least access actually don't tell you what access you have. So that gets very confusing. Okay, so how can your students find this information? So, or actually the resources. So they can do a search just the same way that we just did in our catalog. They can also go into course reserves in Discovery. So there's a link here. There's also a link on our homepage. And this is basically the interface or landing page for course reserves. And students can do a search by the course or the instructor. And that will bring up our courses here. And if you click all, that's going to bring up all of courses, whether they are inactive or not. This one's listed as inactive because it actually hasn't started yet. So we'll click here and scroll down, and here's our ebook for this course. And I do want to mention that this course reserves page includes both print and electronic resources. So you'll see a mixture of that here. And I want to mention that our course reserves manager, Kaylee Noir, who's on this call, she manages this page. She works closely with the bookstore every semester to get a list of titles that have been listed as textbooks. She compares them to our holdings and then puts whatever we have access to or that we own on reserve. And she's done a great job with this. So the other way that your students can access this is through your learning management systems if you link to the actual book from those LMS sites. All right, so this is mainly for the things that were listed by the bookstore. If there's something that's not listed here and you would like to request that it be placed on reserve, you can do so from our homepage under resources. There is a link to course reserves. This will take you to Kaylee's guide, and there's a link to the request form on there. And then she will get in touch with you about that material. And if we do not have the material in the library, we don't have access to it or we don't own it, if it's a print item, you can always request a library purchase. And then this would be that evaluation piece that I mentioned earlier about where we ask you questions about your course, if it is for a course. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Colleen, and she's going to talk about where you can find help on these things.
Still muted. Yes, thank you, Robin. So if you need help, you can go to our Ask a Librarian page. Robin, would you mind clicking on the link? Thank you. This is located under Help on the library homepage, and also actually in a few other places on the library homepage. And there's different options for you to ask a librarian. If you scroll down just a little bit, Robin, you'll see that you can ask us questions via chat from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. You can search our FAQs, and we do actually have a committee that reviews the FAQs regularly. And so if something isn't answered there, you can feel free to ask us, but also we'll see that it was asked in that forum, and that will help us to know if we need to add some more FAQs. And then we also have the submit a question, make an appointment option. And so you can just let us know if you want to have an appointment. Right now, we are still doing Zoom appointments. So if you want a consultation to kind of have an overview, a one-on-one overview of certain things, we can definitely do that. But if you're not sure if you need a consultation, you just have a question, you can submit it there as well. And the Public Services Department will make sure it gets to the right person to answer your question. You can also feel free to reach out to us via email. There's an email on here as well, but the form is really useful because it will be sent to the correct person immediately and there won't be any back and forth. So with that, I'm going to see if there are any questions, and I just want to thank Robin for a great presentation on the different resources that we have available for course reserves. And you can feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question, or you can use the chat. Yes, thank you, Melissa. Looks like maybe you answered everyone's questions, Robin. So we will be emailing everyone who registered for the class with a recording from today's session. I'm going to stop recording right now, actually.